Go
Katie
ahead, pick it up.
Wilson's voice dripped with mockery as she pointed at the Bell
Street's
407 gleaming on the rooftop helipad. 25 executives erupted in laughter, their phones already recording. Elias Johnson stood frozen, his mop handle trembling in calloused hands. The 34-year-old janitor with haunted brown eyes had cleaned these floors for 3 years. Invisible, silent, dismissed. Katie tossed the helicopter keys at his feet. They clattered against marble like an insult. "Go ahead," she said, her designer heels clicking closer. "Pick them up." The laughter grew louder. Comments flew. "This gon' be good." "Janitor pilot. Somebody call HR." Elias bent down slowly, picked up the keys. His voice came out low, controlled. "You serious?" Katie's smile was razor sharp. "Of course not. You probably think helicopters run on wishful thinking." She turned to her audience. "Can you imagine? A janitor who can't even read technical manuals flying a $12 million aircraft?" But Elias pocketed those keys, and something flickered behind his eyes. Something Katie missed completely, because the janitor she'd just humiliated held secrets that could destroy her company or save her life. What happens next will leave you speechless. Drop a like and follow Black Stories Daily for more untold truths. We upload every single day because your story matters. 6 months earlier. The fluorescent lights of Wilson Aviation Technologies buzzed like angry wasps at 2:47 a.m. Elias Johnson pushed his cleaning cart down the executive corridor, his movements methodical, practiced, invisible. He'd perfected invisibility over 3 years. Head down, eyes averted, speak only when spoken to, which was almost never. The chemicals from his cleaning solution burned his nostrils, triggering memories he'd rather forget. Jet fuel, burning metal, screams in Pashto. He squeezed his eyes shut, forced the memories back into their box. Just a job, just chemicals. "You're in Philadelphia, not Kandahar." His therapist at the VA said the grounding techniques would help. They didn't. The pills helped more, though lately even those were failing. Through the glass walls of the boardroom, Elias could see remnants of the day's executive meeting. Coffee cups, discarded reports, a photograph of the late Harrison Wilson with his daughter Katie, both standing beside a sleek helicopter. The photo was 6 months old, taken a week before Harrison's helicopter crashed into the Atlantic. Elias had been cleaning these offices when the news broke. He'd watched Katie transform from a grieving daughter into something harder, colder. Grief had sharpened her into a weapon, and she cut down anyone in her path, especially people like him. He entered the boardroom, began collecting trash. That's when he noticed the maintenance reports spread across the table. Bell 407 helicopter, Katie's personal aircraft, the same model he'd flown in Afghanistan. His hands moved automatically, stacking papers, but his eyes caught something. Flight hours logged, 1,247 engine runtime hours, 981. Elias froze. That wasn't right. That was a 266-hour discrepancy. Either the logs were wrong or someone was falsifying records. Not your business, he has told himself. Not your circus, not your monkeys. But his military training wouldn't let it go. A 266-hour discrepancy meant someone was either flying unauthorized missions or covering up mechanical issues. In a helicopter, that kind of deception killed people. He pulled out his phone, snapped a photo of the logs, just in case. "Admiring my helicopter?" Elias spun around. Katie Wilson stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her expression somewhere between amusement and contempt. Even at 3 a.m. she looked immaculate. Designer suit, perfect hair, diamonds that probably cost more than his annual salary. "No, ma'am. Just cleaning." Elias kept his voice neutral, his eyes down. "Just cleaning," she mimicked his deep voice mockingly. "Do you even know what you're looking at? Those are technical specifications. Maintenance logs. Probably looks like hieroglyphics to someone like you." Someone like you. The words stung more than they should have. He'd heard worse, done worse, been called worse by drill sergeants, by Taliban fighters, by his own commanding officer when they pulled him out of that burning village. "Yes, ma'am. Keep it simple. Don't engage." Katie walked closer. Her perfume, something expensive and suffocating, replacing the ammonia smell. "My father built this company from nothing. Do you know what that takes? Intelligence, vision, sacrifice." She tapped the maintenance logs. "These documents represent millions of dollars in technology, military contracts, government clearances." Elias said nothing, just gripped his mop tighter. "But you wouldn't understand any of that, would you?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You push a mop, $12 an hour, no benefits, no future. Just this." She gestured vaguely at his cleaning cart. $15 an hour, Elias thought. "And I have plenty of future. It just doesn't include helicopters." Marcus Sterling appeared behind Katie, the VP of operations with his salt and pepper hair and $1,000 suit. "Katie, we need to discuss the Northrop contract." "At 3 in the morning?" Katie didn't look away from Elias. "It's urgent." Marcus's voice carried an edge Elias recognized. Desperation. Fear. "Fine." Katie stepped back. "Clean this up thoroughly. Don't touch the documents." "And, Elias?" He met her eyes for just a second. "Stay in your lane." They left. Elias remained still, listening to their footsteps fade, their voices dropping to urgent whispers down the hallway. He should finish cleaning. Clock out. Go home to his one-bedroom apartment in North Philly. Take his pills. Sleep until the nightmares woke him at dawn. Instead, he photographed 3 more pages of maintenance logs, noted the dates, the discrepancies, the signatures. Marcus Sterling had signed off on every inspection. The same Marcus Sterling who'd been Harrison Wilson's most trusted executive, who'd been on that fatal flight's approval team, who now stood to inherit Katie's position if anything happened to her. Elias's phone buzzed. A text from his VA counselor. "Group therapy tomorrow, 6 p.m. You missed the last 2, please come." He deleted it. In the window's reflection, Elias saw himself. 34 years old, 6'2", but somehow he'd learned to take up less space. Shoulders hunched, eyes hollow. The ghost of a warrior wearing a janitor's uniform. "Not your fight," he reminded himself. "But some battles chose you." The morning sun hadn't yet burned through Philadelphia's November fog when Katie Wilson called her quarterly executive meeting. 150 employees packed the marble lobby. Managers, directors, department heads, the company's elite. Elias Johnson mopped the far corner, as invisible as furniture. He'd worked the night shift and should have left an hour ago, but Marcus Sterling had spilled an entire coffee carafe on the marble floor. Deliberately, Elias suspected, watching the VP's hands shake as he accidentally knocked it over. Marcus was unraveling. "Let's talk about excellence." Katie's voice echoed through the lobby. She stood on the raised platform where her father once gave inspiring speeches about innovation and integrity. Katie's speeches were different. sharper, meaner. Wilson Aviation holds 32 military contracts worth $800 million annually. We don't achieve that through mediocrity. She paced like a predator. We achieve it through standards, through hiring the best, through maintaining a culture of excellence. Elias kept mopping, but he was listening, always listening. Which brings me to a demonstration. Katie's heels clicked as she descended the platform, walking directly toward him. Oh no, this man has worked here 3 years. She gestured at Elias like he was an exhibit. 3 years of pushing that mop. Tell me, Elias, what have you learned about aviation in 3 years? The lobby went silent. 150 pairs of eyes turned toward him. Elias straightened slowly, meeting Katie's gaze. Some things, ma'am. Some things. Katie laughed, and the executives laughed with her. Elaborate. What do you know about helicopters? Everything. Flight dynamics, aerodynamics, emergency procedures. He'd flown 1,200 combat hours in Blackhawks and Apaches. He'd survived 3 crashes. He'd earned a Distinguished Flying Cross and 2 air medals. But that was classified. That was buried. That was the person he'd killed alongside those civilians in Kandahar. Not much, ma'am. Not much, Katie repeated. Let me test that. She pulled out her phone, displaying a photograph of her Bell 407. This helicopter costs $12 million. Can you even imagine that amount of money? Elias could. He'd flown aircraft worth twice that. It has a Rolls-Royce turbo-shaft engine producing 700 horsepower, fly-by-wire controls, advanced avionics. She stepped closer. Could you fly it? No, ma'am. Of course not. You'd probably crash it into the Delaware River within 30 seconds. The crowd laughed louder now. Someone had started live streaming. Elias could see phones pointed at him. But let's make this interesting. Katie reached into her pocket, pulled out a key fob, the helicopter keys. Fly this helicopter, and I'll marry you. The lobby erupted. Laughter, whistles, comments. She wild for that. Man's about to embarrass himself. Somebody recording this? Katie dangled the keys in front of Elias's face. Go ahead. Take them. Prove me wrong. Prove that someone who mops floors for minimum wage has the intelligence, the training, the capability to operate a $12 million aircraft. Just walk away. You don't need this job. There are other buildings, other floors to clean. But something in Katie's eyes stopped him. Beneath the cruelty, he saw pain. Grief turned toxic. This wasn't about him. This was about her father. About loss. About a daughter trying to prove she was worthy of an empire she'd inherited too soon. He'd seen that look before. In the mirror. Elias reached out, took the keys. The crowd gasped. Oh, this is good, someone shouted. Katie's smile widened. You're actually going to try? You made an offer, Elias said quietly. I'm accepting. I was joking, you idiot. Put those back before you saw it. You said fly the helicopter, you'll marry me. That's a verbal contract, witnessed by. He glanced around. Approximately 150 people, plus however many are watching online. Katie's face flushed. You can't be serious. Dead serious. Elias pocketed the keys. When should I schedule the flight? The laughter had stopped. The lobby hung in confused silence. Marcus Sterling pushed through the crowd, his face pale. Katie, this has gone far enough. We have actual business to. Shut up, Marcus. Katie's eyes never left Elias. You really think you can fly my helicopter? I think you challenged me and I accepted. You'll kill yourself. Maybe. I'll have you arrested for theft. Those are your keys in my pocket. You gave them to me, in front of witnesses. Katie's composure cracked, just slightly. Fine. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., the rooftop helipad. When you fail, and you will fail, you're fired. No severance, no references, nothing. And when I succeed, you won't. But if I do? Katie stepped so close he could see the grief swimming beneath her anger. If you somehow, impossibly, manage to fly my helicopter without killing yourself, I'll honor my word. Marriage? Don't push your luck. You fly it, you keep your job, and maybe I'll stop treating you like garbage. Her voice dropped. Maybe. Elias extended his hand. Deal. Katie stared at his hand, calloused, scarred, the hands of someone who'd worked hard his entire life. She shook it once, firmly. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., don't be late. She stormed away, Marcus hurrying after her. The executives dispersed, already texting, already posting to social media. Elias stood alone in the lobby, helicopter keys in his pocket, feeling the weight of what he'd just done. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. You just signed your death warrant. Walk away now or you'll regret it. Elias deleted the message. On the rooftop, visible through the lobby's glass ceiling, the Bell 407 sat waiting. Beautiful, deadly, sabotaged. He had 24 hours to decide. Stay invisible and let Katie die, or reveal himself and risk everything. Some choices weren't really choices at all. Elias didn't go home. He drove his 15-year-old Honda Civic to the one place that still felt like sanctuary, the Veterans Affairs Medical Center in West Philadelphia. The building smelled like disinfectant and defeat, but Dr. Patricia Hayes's office smelled like lavender and hope. You missed group therapy, Dr. Hayes said when he knocked on her door at 7 a.m. The 52-year-old psychiatrist looked up from her computer, unsurprised. She was Black, former Army herself, and one of the few people who knew Elias's full story. I know. That's the 4th session in a row. I know. Elias, sit down. It wasn't a request. He sat, the keys to Katie's helicopter suddenly heavy in his pocket. Dr. Hayes closed her laptop. Talk to me. What's going on? Where to start? The humiliation? The conspiracy? The fact that he'd just agreed to fly a helicopter for the first time in 5 years? I think my boss is going to be killed, he said finally. Dr. Hayes leaned forward. Explain. So he did. The maintenance logs, the discrepancies, Marcus Sterling's shaking hands, the sabotage pattern that matched Harrison Wilson's fatal crash, Katie's scheduled flight. He left out the part about agreeing to fly the helicopter himself. Dr. Hayes would have had him committed. Have you reported this to the police? She asked. And tell them what? That the janitor noticed some numbers don't match? That I have a feeling? You have more than a feeling. You have evidence, circumstantial at best. Elias rubbed his face. Besides, why should I care? Katie Wilson treats me like dirt, humiliates me in front of hundreds of people, makes me clean up coffee she deliberately spilled. Why should I risk everything to save her? Because that's who you are. That's who I was. No. Dr. Hayes's voice turned firm. That's who you are. CW3 Elias Johnson, 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the same man who flew into enemy fire to extract wounded soldiers, the same man who received the Distinguished Flying Cross for valor under fire. You don't stop being that person because you're wearing a different uniform. That man also killed civilians. That man followed bad intelligence in an impossible situation. You were exonerated. The investigation cleared you. The Army cleared me. My conscience didn't. Dr. Hayes pulled out a file. Elias's file. Thick enough to be a novel. Let me read you something. This is from Colonel Morrison's letter of recommendation. CW3 Johnson represents the finest traditions of Army aviation. His technical skills are exceptional, but his character is extraordinary. He sees threats others miss. He acts when others freeze. He carries the weight of command with humility and strength. Elias looked away. That was before. Before what? Before you made a split-second decision in a war zone? Before you tried to save lives and couldn't? That doesn't erase who you are, Elias. It added depth, wisdom, caution. It added guilt, nightmares, pills I can't stop taking. And yet you're still trying to save people. Dr. Hayes closed the file. Why do you think Harrison Wilson hired you? The question threw him. What? Harrison Wilson, 3 years ago. You applied for a janitorial position through a generic job board, but Harrison personally approved your hire. Personally set your wage slightly higher than standard. Why? Elias had wondered about that. Lucky, I guess. Or maybe he saw your resume, saw your military background, recognized your real capabilities and wanted someone trustworthy in his building. Dr. Hayes pulled out another document. I did some research after our first session. Harrison Wilson was former Navy, Vietnam-era helicopter pilot. He understood what combat does to people. He built his company on second chances. You're saying he hired me to protect his daughter? I'm saying he hired you because he recognized a warrior who needed a purpose. Whether he intended you to protect Katie or not, here you are facing exactly that choice. Elias stood, paced to the window. Outside, morning traffic crawled down Market Street. Normal people going to normal jobs, not deciding whether to reveal a secret identity to stop a murder. If I fly that helicopter, everyone will know, he said. My cover is blown. The anonymity I've built for 5 years, gone. The media will find out about Kandahar, about the investigation, about everything. Yes. Katie will know I've been lying about who I am. You haven't been lying. You've been surviving. Marcus will know I'm a threat. If he's working with organized crime, I'm putting myself in danger. Also, yes. And for what? Elias turned from the window. To save someone who hates me, who sees me as subhuman? Dr. Hayes met his eyes. To save a daughter whose father secretly protected her by hiring the best guardian he could find. To stop a conspiracy that's already killed one good person. To prove that you're not defined by your worst moment. She paused. And maybe to save yourself. How does this save me? By reminding you that you're still a pilot, still a soldier, still someone who flies into fire when others run away. Elias's hand went to his pocket, where the orange pill bottle waited. I don't know if I can fly again. Physically, maybe. But mentally, that's what the next 24 hours will reveal. And if I can't, if I freeze up there, if the nightmares take over, then Katie Wilson dies, and you live with another ghost. Dr. Hayes stood. But I don't think you will freeze. I think you're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you were meant to do. Saving ungrateful billionaires. Saving people. Period. That's your calling. Katie being ungrateful doesn't change your nature. Elias checked his watch. 7:43 a.m. In 12 hours and 17 minutes, he'd promised to fly a sabotaged helicopter in front of Katie Wilson and whoever else showed up. I need to inspect that aircraft, he said. And then, And then I guess I decide who I really am, the janitor or the pilot. You're both. That's the point. Elias spent the rest of the day like a ghost haunting Wilson Aviation Technologies. He clocked out officially at 8 a.m., but remained in the building, moving through maintenance corridors and service elevators that most employees didn't know existed. Harrison Wilson's old office was his first stop. The executive suite remained locked, preserved like a museum since the founder's death. But janitors had keys to everything. Elias slipped inside at 11 a.m. when the floor emptied for lunch. Dust motes danced in afternoon sunlight. The smell of leathers and expensive cigars lingered. Harrison's desk sat exactly as he'd left it. Coffee cup with 6-month-old residue, reading glasses, a framed photo of Katie at age 8, grinning while sitting in a helicopter cockpit. The same helicopter that would be her coffin tomorrow if Elias failed. He searched methodically. Desk drawers revealed typical executive material: contracts, correspondence, financial reports. But in the bottom drawer, hidden beneath maintenance manuals, Elias found a personal journal. Harrison Wilson's handwriting filled the pages. The entries dated back 2 years. November 3rd. Marcus has been acting strange. Jumped when I mentioned the quarterly audit. Need to investigate his accounts. January 15th. Confirmed. Marcus is in debt. Significant gambling problem. Casinos in Atlantic City. He's vulnerable. Need to address this carefully. March 22nd. Confronted Marcus about the debt. He broke down. Says he's in with dangerous people. The Calabrese family. They want access to our military contracts. He's desperate. Elias's pulse quickened. April 10th. Met with Colonel Morrison today. Discussed security concerns. He recommended a former pilot, Elias Johnson, discharged after Kandahar incident but was cleared. Suffered PTSD. Morrison says he's the most observant, capable pilot he ever commanded. Said Elias, can spot threats others miss. There it was. Confirmation. Harrison had hired him deliberately. April 17th. Hired Elias Johnson as night janitor. Paid him extra through a side account Marcus doesn't know about. Positioned him on the executive floor. If Marcus is compromised, I need someone watching, someone trained, someone who understands danger. Katie would never accept bodyguards, but a janitor? Invisible. May 30th. Marcus knows I'm onto him. Saw it in his eyes today. I need to move carefully, document everything, prepare Katie for what might come. June 3rd. My helicopter inspection revealed subtle issues. Nothing I can prove was sabotage, but my instincts are screaming. I'm canceling the Miami flight. June 5th. Marcus insisting I take the helicopter to Miami. Meeting with Northrop executives. He's very insistent. Something's wrong. I can feel it. The journal ended there. June 6th was the day Harrison Wilson's helicopter crashed into the Atlantic Ocean. Elias photographed every page, his hands steady despite the rage building in his chest. Harrison had known. He'd seen the threat, and he'd hired Elias to protect Katie. But Elias had been too invisible, too committed to hiding, too broken to see what Harrison needed him to see. I failed you, he thought, staring at Harrison's photo. But I won't fail your daughter. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Stop looking where you don't belong. Elias texted back. Or what? No response. He left Harrison's office and headed to the roof access. The stairwell smelled like concrete and old paint. At the top, a metal door led to the helipad. The Bell 407 sat gleaming in afternoon sunlight. Beautiful, deadly, familiar. Elias approached slowly, his reflection distorting across the aircraft's polished surface. His hands trembled, not from fear, from memory. It's just a helicopter. You've flown hundreds of missions. But the last time he'd been in a cockpit, he'd killed people who weren't supposed to die. He forced himself to touch the door handle. Cold metal. Real. Present. You're not supposed to be up here. Elias spun. Marcus Sterling stood in the doorway, backlit by stairwell fluorescence. The VP looked worse than this morning. Rumpled suit, bloodshot eyes, the stink of whiskey even from 15 feet away. Just admiring it, Elias said carefully. Admiring. Marcus laughed, but it was hollow. You know what's funny? Katie actually thinks you'll try to fly this tomorrow. She's planning to watch you fail. Record it. Humiliate you even more. Maybe I won't fail. Marcus studied him with new intensity. Who are you really? A janitor? Bullshit. Janitors don't examine maintenance logs. Don't photograph documents. Don't. Marcus stepped closer, squinting. Wait. I know you. Not from here. From before. Elias's military training kicked in. Every muscle tensed, ready. Morrison, Marcus said suddenly. Colonel Morrison. He recommended you to Harrison. I saw the email but never connected. His face went pale. You're military. You're the pilot. No point denying it now. Was. Past tense. Harrison hired you to spy on me. Harrison hired me to protect his daughter. From me. Marcus laughed again, this time bitter and broken. Ironic. I'm trying to protect my daughter too. By killing Katie? By staying alive, by keeping Emma safe. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed Elias a photo. An 8-year-old black girl with braids and a bright smile, standing outside a school. The Calabrese family took this photo. Yesterday. They know where she walks, what time school ends. They said if Katie makes it to Boston, Emma doesn't make it home. Elias felt the situation shift. This wasn't simple corporate greed. This was desperation. How much do you owe them? He asked. 80 million? Started as 2 million. Gambling debts. But the interest? Marcus's voice cracked. They own me. They wanted inside Wilson Aviation. Military contracts, classified technology. I gave them access. Now they want Katie gone, so I take over. So they have complete control. Walk away, take Emma. Disappear. They'll find us. They have people everywhere. Police, FBI, federal judges. Marcus's hand shook worse now. The only way Emma survives is if I do what they want. So you'll murder Katie? Like you murdered Harrison? I didn't kill Harrison. Marcus's shout echoed across the roof. I didn't warn him. I knew about the sabotage, and I said nothing. Every day I see his face. Every night I hear his helicopter going down. I'm already dead inside. Then let's kill the Calabrese family instead. Marcus stared. What? You heard me. Stop running. Stop following orders. We take the fight to them. Elias stepped closer. I've taken down terrorist cells with better security than the mob. You give me names, locations, evidence. I make them go away. You're insane. I'm trained. There's a difference. Even if we could, which we can't, Katie flies tomorrow. They're watching, waiting. If she doesn't die, Marcus couldn't finish. She won't die. Because I'm flying that helicopter. And when I do, when I prove it's been sabotaged, we have evidence. We have leverage. We flip the game. They'll kill Emma the moment you expose the sabotage. Not if she's already in protective custody. Elias pulled out his phone. I still have contacts, military intelligence, people who owe me favors. We extract Emma tonight. Safe house. Federal protection. Then tomorrow, we end this. Marcus looked between Elias and the helicopter. Why would you help me? I've been trying to kill your boss. Because Emma shouldn't die for your mistakes. Because Katie shouldn't die for her father's success. Because I'm tired of good people dying while bad people win. Elias extended his hand. Help me, or get out of my way. But decide now. Marcus stared at Elias's hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, he shook it. Tell me what you need. They worked through the night like soldiers preparing for battle. Because that's what it was. A war against time, corruption, and killers who thought themselves untouchable. Elias made his first call at 6 p.m. to Colonel Morrison. Johnson? Morrison's voice carried surprise and warmth. Been a long time. Too long, sir. I need a favor. Name it. Witness protection. 8-year-old girl, father's compromised by organized crime. She's being threatened. I need her extracted tonight and placed in federal custody by morning. Morrison didn't hesitate. Give me the address. I'll have a team there in 2 hours. Sir, there's more. The Calabrese family. Yeah, we've been watching the Calabreses for 3 years. Drugs, weapons, human trafficking. If you've got evidence tying them to anything, we'll move. Elias felt the first glimmer of hope. How about murder, attempted murder, corporate espionage, and federal contract fraud? That'll do. Package your evidence. Send it encrypted to my secure line. And Johnson? Yes, sir. Welcome back. The call ended. Elias looked at Marcus, who sat at Elias's tiny kitchen table in North Philly, head and hands. They're getting Emma, Elias said. She'll be safe by midnight. Marcus looked up, tears streaming. I don't deserve this. No, you don't, but Emma does. The second call was harder. Dr. Patricia Hayes answered on the first ring, even though it was 7 p.m. I'm flying tomorrow, Elias said without preamble. Silence. Then, can you? Physically, yes. Mentally, we'll find out. Elias, I need you to do something for me. If I don't make it, there's a file on my laptop. Password is Kandahar 2018. It has everything. Maintenance logs, photos, Marcus's confession. Evidence about the Calabrese family. Make sure it gets to the authorities. You're going to make it. Maybe. But just in case. Elias Johnson, you listen to me. Dr. Hayes's voice turned fierce. You've survived 3 helicopter crashes, 2 combat deployments, and 5 years of survivor's guilt. You will survive tomorrow. You will fly that helicopter. You will save Katie Wilson. And then you will come to my office and finally forgive yourself. Understood? Yes, ma'am. Good. Now go be the warrior you never stopped being. At 8 p.m., Marcus made his call to his wife, Rachel. Baby, I need you to trust me, Marcus said, his voice shaking. In 1 hour, federal agents are coming to the house. They're taking you and Emma somewhere safe. Rachel's voice came through the speaker. Marcus, what did you do? Everything wrong, but I'm fixing it. Just trust me one more time. Pack Emma's favorite things. Her stuffed elephant. That blanket she loves. Tell her it's an adventure. How long? A few days, maybe a week. Then we'll be together again. I promise. You better keep that promise, Marcus Sterling. I will. I love you. Tell Emma. I love her. She knows. We both know. At 9 p.m., they drove to Wilson Aviation. The building stood dark except for security lights. They parked 2 blocks away, approached on foot through maintenance corridors Elias had memorized. The rooftop helipad was empty, silent. The Bell 407 waited like a predator at rest. Talk me through what you did, Elias said. Marcus pulled out a small notebook, his hands trembling. The hydraulic fluid has been compromised. Standard MIL H5606 mixed with a crystallizing compound. At altitude, specifically above 8,000 feet, it'll turn to gel. Lock the controls. The helicopter will drop like a stone. Who provided the compound? Calabrese chemist. It's undetectable in standard inspections. Looks normal, tests normal, until altitude and temperature trigger the reaction. Elias opened the helicopter's maintenance panel, examining the hydraulic lines. Clear red fluid flowed through transparent sections. It looked perfect. But perfect things killed you. Can we replace it? Elias asked. Not without them knowing. They have someone on the maintenance crew, Carl Jensen. He reports every change to the Calabreses. So I fly with compromised hydraulics. That's suicide. Or precision. Elias pulled out his phone, showing Marcus a diagram he'd drawn. I don't go above 8,000 feet. Keep it low, slow. If the compound starts crystallizing, I'll have maybe 2 minutes to execute an emergency landing. Maybe? Elias, this isn't a combat zone. This is downtown Philadelphia. There's nowhere to land a helicopter in an emergency. There are 12 suitable emergency landing zones within 5 miles of this building. I've been mapping them for 3 years. Marcus stared. You've been preparing for this? I've been preparing for everything. That's what soldiers do. At 11 p.m., Colonel Morrison called back. Emma Sterling is secure. Rachel Sterling is secure. They're in a safe house in Maryland. Federal marshals on site. Thank you, sir. The evidence you sent, Johnson. This is bigger than we thought. The Calabreses have been using Wilson Aviation as a front for arms trafficking, selling military tech to foreign actors. This case goes international. How fast can you move? We'll raid their operations simultaneously tomorrow at noon. 6 locations. But here's the problem. They have a mole in the Philadelphia PD. Someone's been feeding them information. Until we identify that person, assume your position is compromised. Understood. Which means tomorrow's flight is even more dangerous. They'll be watching. If Katie doesn't die, they'll know something's wrong. They'll come after you. Let them come. Morrison laughed. There's the Johnson I remember. Good hunting, CW3. At midnight, Marcus left to establish his alibi. Home, visible to neighbors, ready to act shocked when the call came that Katie had crashed. Elias remained on the roof, alone with the helicopter. He opened the door, sat in the pilot's seat for the first time in 5 years. His hands found the controls automatically. Muscle memory. The collective felt right in his left hand. The cyclic familiar in his right. He closed his eyes, breathed, waited for the panic. It came like a wave. Kandahar, the village, the explosion, children screaming, blood and dust and the smell of burning flesh. Elias's hands shook. Sweat poured down his face. His heart hammered. You killed them. You killed children. You're not fit to fly. You'll kill Katie too. You'll kill everyone. No, he said out loud. I saved those children. The investigation proved it. The intel was bad. The situation was impossible. I did my best. Your best wasn't good enough. Then tomorrow, I'll be better. He opened his eyes. The panic receded. Not gone. It would never be gone, but manageable. He pulled out his pill bottle. Orange plastic. White label. Sertraline 100 mg. He'd been taking these pills for 5 years, hiding behind them, using them as an excuse to stay small, stay invisible, stay safe. Elias poured the pills onto the seat, 34 of them, a month's supply. Then he swept them out the door, watching them scatter across the rooftop like stars. No more hiding, he said to the empty sky. Tomorrow, I fly. 8 a.m. arrived cold and bright. Perfect flying weather. Perfect dying weather. Katie Wilson stood on the rooftop helipad, surrounded by 47 employees, executives, managers, her personal assistant, and enough phones recording to document either a miracle or a massacre. Where is he? Katie checked her Cartier watch for the 3rd time. It's 8:02. The janitor's already late. Maybe he realized he's in over his head, someone said. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Marcus Sterling stood at the back, his face carefully neutral. He'd gotten 3 hours of sleep, spent the rest of the night confirming Emma and Rachel were safe, then returning home to establish his presence. His phone showed text messages from Calabrese enforcers. Everything ready? She better go down clean. He'd responded. All systems in place. Now he watched the door to the stairwell, waiting to see if Elias Johnson would really go through with this insanity. There. Katie's assistant pointed. Elias emerged from the stairwell door wearing clothes none of them had seen before. Not his janitor uniform. Not civilian casual. Military flight suit. Faded but maintained. Patches removed, but the ghost of insignia still visible. Combat boots polished to shine. Dog tags visible at his collar. The crowd went silent. Who the hell are you supposed to be? Katie asked, but her voice had lost some certainty. This man didn't move like a janitor anymore. His shoulders were back, his head up, his eyes clear and hard. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Elias Johnson, he said, his voice carrying across the roof. 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, 1,200 combat flight hours. Here to take you up on your offer. Katie's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, then anger. This is a joke. No, ma'am. This is real. Elias held up the helicopter keys she'd given him. You said fly this helicopter and you'd marry me. I'm ready to fly. You're a janitor. I'm a pilot. Was a pilot. Am a pilot. Elias walked toward the Bell 407. The janitor thing was just a disguise. Marcus. Katie turned to her VP. Did you know about this? Marcus shook his head, playing his part. First, I'm hearing of it. He's lying, Katie said, but doubt had crept in. Military records are public. We can check. Go ahead. Elias stood beside the helicopter. Elias Michael Johnson. Service number 982447621. You'll find everything. Distinguished Flying Cross, 2 air medals, Purple Heart, and a medical discharge for PTSD following an incident in Kandahar, Afghanistan, 2018. Someone in the crowd was already Googling. A junior executive called out, "Holy shit, it's true. There's a commendation here from Colonel Marcus Morrison, 160th SOAR. This guy's a legit war hero." Katie stared at Elias like seeing him for the first time. Why would a decorated pilot work as a janitor? Because I couldn't fly anymore. Because the pills and the therapy and the VA appointments weren't enough. Because I needed to disappear. Elias opened the helicopter door. Your father understood that. He hired me anyway. Paid me extra through a side company. Positioned me to protect you. That's impossible. My father never mentioned. Check his personal records. The journal in his desk. Bottom drawer, hidden under maintenance manuals. Elias climbed into the pilot's seat. Your father knew Marcus was compromised. Knew someone was going to try to kill you the same way they killed him. He needed a guardian you wouldn't reject. So he hired a janitor who used to fly. Marcus felt the crowd's attention shift toward him. Several people pulled out phones, texting, researching. That's ridiculous, Marcus said, but his voice cracked. Is it? Elias began pre-flight checks, his hands moving with professional precision. Tell them about your gambling debts, Marcus. About the Calabrese family. About how they own you. This is slander. Tell them about Harrison's helicopter. How the hydraulic fluid was compromised. How it crystallized at altitude and locked the controls. How there was nothing he could do but ride it down into the Atlantic. Katie's face went white. How do you know that? Because they did the same thing to this helicopter. Elias gestured at the Bell 407. Check the maintenance logs. Flight hours don't match engine runtime. Someone's been falsifying records. Someone's been sabotaging this aircraft. That's insane, Marcus said, but sweat poured down his face despite the cold morning air. One of the executives, a woman named Sarah from operations, stepped forward. Actually, Katie, there have been discrepancies. I flagged them last month. But Marcus said they were clerical errors. They are clerical errors. Marcus's voice rose. This janitor, this so-called pilot, is making wild accusations to cover up his own deception. Then prove it, Elias gestured to the helicopter. Come up with me. If this aircraft is safe, you should have no problem flying, unless you know something I don't. The trap was beautiful. Marcus couldn't refuse without looking guilty, couldn't accept without dying himself. Katie made the decision for him. Nobody's flying anywhere until we sort this out. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. Please do, Elias said. While you're at it, call the FBI. Ask for Agent Rodriguez. She's been investigating the Calabrese family's connection to Wilson Aviation. She'll be very interested in Marcus's financials. Marcus broke. The weight of months, years of lies and fear and guilt collapsed on him at once. It wasn't supposed to be like this. He stumbled backward. They threatened my daughter. They had photos of Emma at school. What was I supposed to do? The crowd erupted in shock. You killed my father. Katie's voice was barely a whisper. I didn't kill him. I just didn't warn him. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Marcus turned to run, but Elias had anticipated this. He'd texted Morrison 30 minutes ago. Now, as Marcus reached the stairwell door, it opened from the inside. FBI agents, 6 of them, weapons drawn. Marcus Sterling, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, corporate espionage, and federal contract fraud. They had him in handcuffs within seconds. As they led him away, Marcus looked back at Elias. My daughter. You promised. She's safe. Federal protection. You kept your end. I kept mine. Marcus nodded, tears streaming. Then he was gone. The rooftop fell into stunned silence. Katie stood frozen, watching the spot where her father's murderer had just stood. Then she turned to Elias. You knew. You've known for how long? 3 days, since I found your father's journal. And you didn't tell me? Would you have believed me, the janitor accusing your VP? Katie had no answer for that. Besides, Elias continued. I needed evidence, proof, a confession. Just telling you wouldn't have stopped the Calabrese family. They'd have killed Marcus's daughter and found someone else to do their dirty work. So you set up this whole demonstration. Made me look foolish. Made me think you were going to fly. I am going to fly. Elias started the engine. The rotor began its slow rotation, building speed, the sound washing over them like a familiar song. The hydraulics have been compromised. They'll fail somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 feet. But I'm not going above 8,000. I'm going to prove this aircraft is sabotaged, land safely, and provide the FBI with the final piece of evidence they need. That's suicide. That's Tuesday. Elias checked his instruments. I've done harder things. Katie ran to the pilot's door. Don't. We have Marcus. We have his confession. We don't need you to risk your life. Yes, we do. Because the Calabrese family is watching right now. They have someone in the crowd. Elias's eyes scanned the assembled employees. Probably Carl Jensen from maintenance, who's been texting updates since we started. Carl Jensen, a muscular white man in his 30s, went pale. If I don't fly, if this doesn't look like an accident attempt, they'll know something's wrong. They'll regroup, come at you differently. But if I fly, if the hydraulics fail publicly, if the sabotage is undeniable. Elias smiled grimly. Then they've got nothing. Their plan is exposed. Their chemist's formula is evidence. Their inside man is revealed. It's over. You're really going to do this? It wasn't a question. I made you a promise. Fly the helicopter, earn the respect. Elias began the final pre-flight sequence. Time to deliver. And the marriage part? Katie's voice held something new. Not mockery, something softer. We'll negotiate that when I land. When? Not if. When? Katie stepped back from the helicopter. The crowd parted, giving the aircraft clearance. Every phone was recording now. This was going to be the most documented flight in corporate history. Elias took a breath. His hands were steady, his mind clear. The nightmares waited at the edges of consciousness, but for the first time in 5 years, he was ready to face them. Tower, this is Wilson 1 requesting clearance for local flight pattern. The radio crackled. Wilson 1, you are cleared for takeoff. Winds 280 at 8 knots. Good luck. Elias pulled collective. The Bell 407 lifted smoothly from the pad, rising into Philadelphia's cold morning sky. And for those first 60 seconds, it was perfect. Pure. The freedom he'd forgotten existed. Then the hydraulic warning light blinked red. The real test had begun. At 2,000 feet, the first indication of trouble appeared. A slight stiffness in the cyclic control. Barely noticeable to anyone who hadn't flown in 200 combat hours. But Elias felt it immediately. The crystallization had begun. On the rooftop below, Katie watched the helicopter circle, her heart in her throat. The crowd had grown silent. Even those who'd been mocking Elias an hour ago now watched with something like awe. He's really doing it, Sarah from operations whispered. He's going to die, someone else said. Katie pulled out her phone, called 911. This is Katie Wilson, CEO of Wilson Aviation. We have a helicopter with mechanical failure over Center City. I need emergency services standing by. The operator's voice remained calm. Ma'am, is the pilot aware of the mechanical issue? He's aware. He's the one who discovered it. Is he attempting to land? Katie watched the Bell 407 execute a slow, controlled turn. I think he's proving a point first. At 3,500 feet, Elias keyed his radio. Wilson ground. Be advised I have hydraulic pressure dropping. Current pressure 1200 psi and falling. Estimate failure in approximately 3 minutes. Katie grabbed Marcus's abandoned phone from the ground, found the group text Marcus had been part of. The Calabrese family was indeed watching. What's he doing? Why isn't he climbing? Make him go higher. The compound doesn't work below 8,000. He knows. Abort, abort. The messages came rapid fire. Panicked. Katie screenshot everything, forwarded it to the FBI number Elias had given her. At 4,000 feet, the cyclic controls were noticeably stiff. Elias had to use both hands to execute turns, his muscles straining against hydraulics that were turning to gel. His radio crackled. Wilson, 1. This is Philadelphia approach. We have you on radar with reported mechanical issues. Do you need assistance? Negative approach. Mechanical issues are expected. I'm documenting sabotage for federal investigation. I'll be executing emergency landing procedures in approximately 90 seconds. Copy, Wilson 1. Emergency services are standing by. We're clearing all traffic from your vicinity. Dr. Hayes's voice came through his headset. He'd called her before takeoff, kept the line open. Talk to me, Elias. How are you doing? Hydraulics are at 800 psi and dropping fast. Controls are maybe 40% responsive. Crystallization is accelerating faster than Marcus predicted. Can you land it? We're about to find out. Elias, I'm good, Doc. For the first time in 5 years, I'm actually good. And he meant it. The fear was there, would always be there, but it didn't control him anymore. He was flying again, truly flying. Not running from his past, but confronting it. At 4,500 feet, the hydraulic pressure hit 500 psi. Critical threshold. The collective in Elias's left hand required all his strength to move. The cyclic felt like it was set in concrete. He keyed the radio again. Wilson ground, beginning emergency descent. Hydraulic pressure is 500 psi. Controls are approximately 20% responsive. Landing zone will be Rittenhouse Square Park. On the rooftop, Katie gasped. That's downtown. It's surrounded by buildings. There are people. He knows what he's doing, Sarah said. But her voice shook. At 4,000 feet, Elias began the descent. This was the critical part. Too fast, and he'd lose control completely. Too slow, and the hydraulics would fail before he reached the ground. He thought about his training, the thousands of hours in simulators, the dozens of emergency landings in combat zones, the time he'd put down a Black Hawk on a rooftop in Fallujah with one engine out and Taliban fire all around him. You've done harder things, Dr. Hayes had said. She was right. At 3,000 feet, memory and present collided. Suddenly, Elias wasn't over Philadelphia anymore. He was over Kandahar. The date was November 15th, 2018. He was flying CW-3 Johnson's final mission. The target building looked like every other compound in the village. Intelligence said enemy combatants were using it as a weapons cache. Elias's mission was to provide overwatch while ground forces moved in. But something was wrong. The thermal signature showed multiple heat sources inside. Too many for a weapons cache. And they were small. Too small. Blackjack 6, this is Falcon 2, Elias had radioed. I have eyes on target building. Multiple small heat signatures. Possibly civilians. Request confirmation before engagement. Falcon 2, target is confirmed hostile. You are cleared hot. Sir, I really think... That's an order, CW3. Engage the target. Elias had hesitated. 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. Then he'd seen it. A man running from the building toward a vehicle. Carrying something. In the infrared, It looked like a weapon. Elias made the decision. Engaged. The explosion was massive. The building collapsed. The vehicle burned. Then the screaming started. Not combatants. A family. The weapon was a child the man was carrying to safety. The building had been their home, not a weapons cache. Bad intelligence. Wrong target. 6 people injured, including 4 children. Elias had landed immediately, pulled survivors from the rubble himself, worked alongside army medics for 2 hours. All 6 survived, but barely. The investigation cleared him. Followed orders, bad intelligence, impossible situation. But Elias couldn't clear himself. Until now. At 2,000 feet over Philadelphia, Elias finally understood something Dr. Hayes had been trying to tell him for 5 years. You can't control the intelligence. You can't control the orders. You can only control your response. And you responded by landing immediately, by saving them, by carrying that guilt for 5 years and letting it make you more careful, more aware, more human. That guilt wasn't a weakness. It was evidence of his humanity. Falcon 2, you're drifting. Dr. Hayes's voice cut through the memory. Stay with me. I'm here, Doc, just finally understanding something. At 1,000 feet, the hydraulic pressure hit 0. Total failure. The cyclic locked completely. The collective barely moved. Elias was essentially flying a 5,000-pound brick with spinning rotors. He keyed the radio one last time. Wilson ground. Hydraulic failure complete. This is what was meant to kill Katie Wilson and Harrison Wilson. This is what the Calabrese family paid for. I'm documenting everything. Then he focused entirely on the landing. Rittenhouse Square Park appeared below, a green square in a grid of concrete and steel. It was maybe 100 feet by 100 feet, surrounded by buildings, filled with people having their morning coffee. Philadelphia PD had already cleared the park. Elias could see officers waving people back, creating a perimeter. He had one chance. No hydraulics meant no precise control. He'd have to use collective and throttle only, auto-rotating the last 500 feet, relying on momentum and physics and 15 years of training. At 500 feet, he cut the throttle. The helicopter began to fall. The rotor, no longer powered, began to spin freely. Auto-rotation, the emergency mode where falling generates the rotor speed that lets you control descent. Elias pulled collective at exactly the right moment. Too early, and he'd run out of rotor energy. Too late, and he'd hit the ground at fatal speed. The Bell 407 flared, trading forward momentum for reduced descent rate. The skids touched grass. The helicopter bounced once, settled. The rotors slowed. Elias shut down the engine. For a moment, he just sat there, breathing, alive, successful, redeemed. Then the sound hit him, cheering. People all over downtown Philadelphia had watched the landing, had seen the impossible made possible. Elias climbed out of the helicopter on shaking legs. Emergency vehicles surrounded the park, lights flashing. FBI agents approached. Agent Rodriguez herself, phone already recording video evidence. But Elias looked past them all, up at the Wilson Aviation Building visible in the distance, at the crowd of people still gathered on the rooftop, at Katie Wilson, who was already running toward the street, toward the park, toward him. He'd done it, proven the sabotage, saved her life, exposed the conspiracy, and more importantly, he'd finally forgiven himself. Dr. Hayes's voice came through his still-connected headset. Welcome back, pilot. Elias smiled. Good to be back, Doc. Katie Wilson reached Rittenhouse Square Park in 7 minutes flat, running in heels and a designer suit through 3 blocks of downtown Philadelphia. FBI agents tried to stop her at the perimeter. She pushed past them. Elias stood beside the helicopter, talking to investigators. He looked up when Katie broke through the crowd. You insane, reckless. She stopped, breathing hard. You could have died. But I didn't. The hydraulics failed completely. I watched it happen. You had no control. I had enough control. I've landed in worse conditions. Katie looked at the Bell 407, at the emergency vehicles, at the crowd of spectators filming everything. This is going to be everywhere. International news. War hero Janitor exposes corporate conspiracy. Probably. My company's going to take a massive hit. Stock prices will crash. Investors will panic. Maybe. And it's all my fault. Katie's voice broke. I treated you like garbage. I humiliated you. I made you clean up coffee I deliberately spilled. I mocked you in front of hundreds of people. She gestured at herself. And you saved my life anyway. What kind of person does that? The same kind who makes people kneel when they're hurting inside. We're all fighting something, Katie. You were fighting grief. I was fighting guilt. We just chose different weapons. Agent Rodriguez approached with a tablet. Mr. Johnson, we need your statement. And Ms. Wilson, we need to discuss Wilson Aviation's involvement. Give us 5 minutes, Katie said. Ma'am, 5 minutes. Then I'll tell you everything I know. Katie looked at Elias. Walk with me? They moved away from the crowd toward the edge of the park where old oak bushes provided some privacy. Katie stared at her hands, the same hands that had thrown helicopter keys at Elias, with contempt. My father knew, she said finally. He knew Marcus was compromised. He knew I was in danger. So he hired you, a decorated pilot disguised as a janitor, to protect me. Yes. And I was so wrapped up in my grief, so determined to prove I was strong enough to run the company alone, that I never saw it. Never saw you. Never saw the danger. She laughed bitterly. Some CEO I am. Your father didn't think you were weak, Katie. He thought you were so strong that you'd refuse obvious protection. So he made it invisible. Made me invisible. And I kept you invisible by treating you as subhuman. You were hurting. People hurt people when they're hurting. That's not an excuse. No, but it's an explanation. Elias pulled out his dog tags, turned them over in his hands. I spent 5 years hiding from who I was, punishing myself for Kandahar, convincing myself I didn't deserve to fly, to be respected, to be seen. You treating me like a janitor, I let you do that. Maybe I even wanted it. Penance for my sins. You didn't sin. You followed orders in an impossible situation. That's what everyone says. But those children are alive because of you. You landed immediately, pulled them from rubble, saved them. Katie stepped closer. I know because I called Colonel Morrison this morning. Asked about you. He told me everything. The investigation. The commendations. The medical discharge you fought against because you wanted to keep flying. She paused. He also told me you called him last week. Asked him to reinstate your flight status. Elias looked up sharply. That's confidential. Morrison called me back 20 minutes ago. Said your reinstatement is approved. Pending psychological evaluation, which Dr. Hayes already submitted. As of this morning, you're officially cleared to fly again. For a moment, Elias couldn't speak. 5 years. 5 years of believing he'd never fly again. Never deserve to fly again. Why didn't Morrison tell me? He managed finally. Because he wanted to see if you'd fly anyway. Without permission. Without approval. He said the best pilots fly because they can't not fly. It's who they are. Katie smiled slightly. Apparently you passed his test. Elias looked at the Bell 407, at the crowd, at the sky above Philadelphia. I did feel it again. The freedom, the purpose, the joy. So what happens now? Now? Elias pocketed his dog tags. Now we deal with the FBI investigation, the Calabrese family, Marcus's testimony, your company's reputation, the media circus. He met her eyes. And somewhere in all that, you and I figure out who we really are to each other. I know who you are. You're the man my father trusted with my life. The warrior who saved me from my own blindness, I'm also the janitor you humiliated. Let's not forget that part. Katie flinched. I will spend the rest of my life making that right. I don't want the rest of your life. I just want honesty, respect, the same thing you want from me. Deal? Katie extended her hand. They shook, but this time it felt different. Not employer and employee. Not CEO and janitor. Not even hero and saved. Just two people who'd been broken by different wars, finding their way toward something like healing. Agent Rodriguez called over. Mr. Johnson, Ms. Wilson, we really do need those statements now. They walked back together, side by side. The FBI had questions. The media had cameras. The world had opinions. But for the first time in years, Elias Johnson knew exactly who he was. A pilot, a protector, a person who mattered. And Katie Wilson finally understood what her father had known all along. The most valuable people in your life are often the ones you overlook. One more thing, Katie said as they reached the FBI agents. About your job. I'm fired, I know. You're fired from janitorial services. I'm offering you a new position, Chief of Flight Safety. Salary $180,000. Full benefits. You'll report directly to me and work with the FBI to audit every aircraft in our fleet. Katie, plus, you'll run the Harrison Wilson Foundation for Veterans. Help other pilots like you get their wings back. Get their lives back. Elias stared at her. Why? Because it's what my father would have wanted. Because it's what's right. Because you've earned it 10 times over. She paused. And because I need someone I can trust. Someone who sees danger where others see opportunity. Someone who will tell me the truth even when I don't want to hear it. That job sounds hard. It is. That's why I need you. When do I start? Tomorrow. Today we deal with the FBI. Tomorrow we rebuild everything my father created. The right way. They turned toward Agent Rodriguez together, ready to face whatever came next. Behind them, emergency crews began securing the Bell 407. Evidence of sabotage. Evidence of conspiracy. Evidence that sometimes the person who saves you is the person you least expect. 6 months later, the rooftop helipad of Wilson Aviation Technologies gleamed under autumn sunshine. 3 helicopters sat in neat formation, all newly inspected, all certified safe, all bearing the mark of Elias Johnson's exhaustive safety protocols. Elias stood beside them, clipboard in hand, teaching a class of 12 veterans. Men and women who'd lost their wings to PTSD, injury, or trauma. The first graduates of the Harrison Wilson Foundation for Veteran Pilots. Hydraulic pressure, Elias called out. Normal range 1,450 to 1,550 psi, responded James, a former Apache pilot who hadn't touched an aircraft in 6 years. What do we check if it drops? Fluid level, line integrity, possible contamination, answered Maria, whose Black Hawk had crashed in Syria. Elias nodded. Good. Remember, your trauma doesn't define your capability. It informs it, makes you more careful, more aware. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. The veterans nodded, understanding in their eyes. They'd all been where Elias was. Broken, lost, convinced they'd never fly again. Now they stood on a rooftop in Philadelphia, reclaiming their identities one lesson at a time. Katie emerged from the stairwell, carrying 2 coffee cups. She handed one to Elias. Morning briefing in 30 minutes. The Pentagon wants an update on the new safety protocols. They're getting paranoid after the Calabrese investigation. Can you blame them? We caught 3 more compromised executives at defense contractors. This thing went deeper than anyone knew. The Calabrese family had been dismantled completely. 73 arrests across 6 states, including 5 federal judges and 12 military contractors. Marcus Sterling had testified in exchange for reduced charges and witness protection for his family. He'd serve 15 years, but would eventually reunite with Emma and Rachel. It wasn't justice exactly, but it was something. How's Emma? Elias asked. Starting 3rd grade in Denver under a new name. Seems happy according to the marshals. Katie sipped her coffee. Marcus writes to me sometimes. Apologizing, explaining. I don't write back. Maybe you should. Maybe. She watched the veterans checking helicopter systems. You've changed since that day. Softer, somehow. Or maybe just more myself. There's a difference? Yeah. Being soft used to feel like weakness. Now it feels like strength. A black SUV pulled into the parking lot below. Colonel Morrison stepped out, along with a woman in her 40s wearing traditional Afghan dress. Elias froze. That's... He couldn't finish. Amina Hassan, Katie said quietly. From Kandahar, she and her family have been in refugee status for 5 years. Morrison helped expedite their asylum paperwork. Why is she here? Because you saved her family and she wanted to thank you in person. Because some stories need proper endings. Elias felt his legs go weak. For 5 years, he'd lived with the belief that he'd destroyed that family, ruined their lives, caused irreparable harm. Colonel Morrison and Amina Hassan took the elevator to the roof. When Amina saw Elias, she smiled, not with anger or pain, but with genuine warmth. Mr. Johnson, she said, her English accented but clear. I have wanted to meet you for a long time. I'm sorry, Elias said immediately. I am so sorry for what I did. What you did? Amina looked confused. You saved us. You landed your helicopter in the middle of battle. You pulled my children from fire. You kept my husband breathing until medics arrived. She stepped closer. You gave us life. But the explosion, the orders were wrong. The intelligence was wrong, but your actions were right. Amina pulled out her phone, showed Elias photos. 4 children, now teenagers, smiling at a camera. Rashid is studying engineering. Layla wants to be a doctor. They are alive because you chose to save them instead of leaving. Elias felt tears he'd held for 5 years finally break free. I thought I destroyed you. You thought wrong. Guilt made you blind. Amina took his hands. In my culture, when someone saves your family, They become family. You are my brother, Elias Johnson. You always have been. Morrison stepped forward, pulling out an official-looking folder. CW3 Johnson. After reviewing all evidence from the Kandahar incident and consulting with the Hassan family, the Army has upgraded your medical discharge to honorable retirement with full benefits. Additionally, you're being awarded the Soldier's Medal for heroism not involving combat. Sir, I don't deserve. Yes, you do. You landed in a hot zone, extracted civilians, saved lives. That's what we do. That's who we are. Morrison saluted. Welcome home, Chief. Elias returned the salute, tears streaming freely now. Katie stepped beside him, her own eyes wet. Elias Johnson, you have 32 job offers from defense contractors and 3 from private airlines. But I'm hoping you'll stay here. Keep building the foundation. Keep teaching these veterans. Keep being exactly who you are. Elias looked around the rooftop, at Morrison, at Amina, at Katie, at the 12 veterans who were watching this moment with understanding and hope, at the helicopters gleaming in autumn sun. I'm not going anywhere, he said finally. This is where I belong. Good, Katie smiled, because next month we're breaking ground on the Harrison Wilson School for Aviation Safety. Free training for veterans, at-risk youth, anyone who wants to learn. And guess who's running it? Katie. It's already decided. Board approved it unanimously. She pulled out a small box, opened it. Inside was a silver pin, helicopter wings with a single star. Your father's pilot wings. He wanted you to have them. Elias stared at the wings. How did you know? He wrote letters, one for me, one for you, to be opened if certain conditions were met. Katie handed him an envelope. Apparently, he knew exactly how this would play out. Elias opened the letter with trembling hands. Harrison Wilson's handwriting filled the page. Dear Elias, if you're reading this, then my daughter is alive and you've finally stopped hiding. Good. I hired you because Colonel Morrison told me you were the finest pilot he'd ever commanded and the most damaged human he'd ever met. That combination made you perfect for protecting Katie, someone who would see danger she'd miss, but who'd never seek glory or attention. I knew you blamed yourself for Kandahar, knew you'd punish yourself by hiding. But I also knew that eventually, Katie would need you to fly again, and that flight would force you to face what you've been running from. You're not a monster. You're a hero who made an impossible choice and has carried that weight with honor. My daughter needed protecting, but you needed saving. I hoped you'd save each other. Wear these wings proudly. You earned them in war. You earned them again in peace. And whatever comes next, whatever Katie needs, whatever these veterans need, whatever you need, remember that you belong in the sky. The janitor uniform was never who you were. It was just what you wore while you healed. Fly again, live again, love again. You're already forgiven. Harrison Elias folded the letter carefully, pinned his father's wings to his flight suit. Katie raised her coffee cup. To my father, who saw people's souls, not their titles. To Harrison, the group echoed. Amina added. To warriors who become healers. Morrison finished. To second chances. They drank together as the sun climbed higher over Philadelphia, warming the rooftop, warming the people gathered there, warming the future that stretched out before them. Later that afternoon, Elias took Katie up in one of the newly certified helicopters. Just the two of them, flying low over the Delaware River, the city spreading out beneath them like a promise. Do you remember what you said? Katie asked over the headset. That day I threw the keys at you? I said, you serious? And I said, of course not, but here we are. You flew the helicopter. You kept your word. She smiled. So I guess I owe you a wedding. Elias laughed. I'm not holding you to that. What if I want you to? The question hung in the air between them, complicated and simple all at once. Then ask me again, Elias said finally. Without mockery, without cruelty, without an audience. Just you and me and the truth. Katie was quiet for a long moment. Then, Elias Johnson, will you fly through life with me? Not as employee and boss, not as hero and saved, but as equals, as partners, as two broken people who somehow make each other whole? Elias looked at her, this woman who'd humiliated him, challenged him, forced him back into the sky. This woman who'd learned to see past titles and uniforms. This woman who was finally becoming who her father had hoped she'd be. Ask me again in a year, he said. After we've built the school, after these veterans graduate, after we've proven that what we have is real and not just trauma bonding. Fair enough, Katie smiled. But I'm holding you to that timeline. Deal. They flew in comfortable silence, two souls finding peace at 3,000 feet. Below them, Philadelphia went about its business. Above them, blue sky stretched to infinity. And somewhere between earth and heaven, Elias Johnson finally forgave himself. Not because anyone told him to. Not because letters or medals or Afghan families absolved him. But because he chose to. Because carrying guilt forever helps no one. Because the best way to honor his mistakes was to learn from them, teach from them, grow from them. He was a janitor who became a pilot, a warrior who became a healer, a broken man who became whole. And in the end, that was enough. Have you ever misjudged someone based on their appearance or position? Share your story in the comments. And follow Speak Black Stories daily. We upload every day because your story matters. Your dignity matters. You matter.